Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money.
Like we need to go to the club after that. Okay, anyways, did integration really help Black America? Trevor Noah says no. Welcome to Fly Nubian, your mindset and maximize your money, your shmoneys. Today we're tackling a loaded question that's got folks talking. Was integration really the right move for Black America? Trevor Noah recently posed this thought-provoking question, challenging us to think beyond the obvious issues of racism and oppression, and instead examine the core concepts of integration itself. Did we gain opportunities or did we lose our sense of community, economic strength, and independence? We want to dig deeper into how integration may have impacted our financial power, our sense of community, and even our mindset. Did we trade something valuable for the promise of inclusion? Let's break it all down with today's dynamic panel. We have Aisha, and she is a financial expert. We have Shalaye Camilo, how do you say your last name? Is it Camilo?
Camilo.
CEO of Vital Source Reality. And we have the king, the homeboy, doctor. I was going to say something like the concept would say, but I ain't going to do you like that. Dr. Joe Corley, therapist, friend, father. And so before we get into the conversation, let's look at the video. Let's look at Trevor Noah's video first, and then we'll start talking about what the thoughts are.
I found myself wondering, and this applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? And now I'm separating two things because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there was segregation. And I go, yeah, no. I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about, and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means. Yeah. Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe. On the other side of, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that? And so part of it is to question what we're being invited into.
Wow. So I'm going to do a round robin quick thought, and I want you guys to tell me in the chat as well. So this is for my panel, and this is for you in the chat. First thing that comes to your mind, don't overthink it. Okay. When you think of the word integration, what's the first word that comes to your mind, Shalaye? First word.
Assimilation. Assimilation.
Assimilation. Joe?
Oppression.
Oppression. Aisha?
Why?
Why? Ooh, okay. So in the chat, let me know what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word integration. And then my next question is, was in that video they talked about integration as a solution? Or do you feel or think that Joe, that integration was actually a solution?
No, it hasn't proven to be. You know, I mean, we
It hasn't proven to be.
watched it play out, so we have the answers to the test.
Okay. What would it look like if it had played out? Like what when you say it hasn't played out, what does that mean? Like does it look like segregation means we're coming together and kumbaya and holding hands?
Yeah, I mean, it would look like equality, right? And
Okay.
we haven't achieved that, so it hasn't played out in our favor at all.
Okay.
And it's our
Do you
greatest
think that-
weakness in the country.
No, go ahead. Say it again.
I said it's our greatest weakness. Racism is our greatest weakness in our country. So,
And I think the thought was if we integrate, racism will go away, and that is absolutely not what has happened. Shalaye, do you think that integration has hurt or helped the Black community economically?
I think that it has hurt and helped economically. And I also, just to go back to what you just said, I think that for the folks who decided and was like, okay, fine, we'll integrate, I don't think that they thought that it would get rid of racism. I think that Black people were hoping that it would get rid of racism. They already knew what they were going to do, and they already knew what they weren't going to do. But there are ways that integration has helped us economically, as far as some economic opportunities and being integrated into that system in some ways, but in other ways it hasn't. I think that we've lost our sense of self-sufficiency and depending on each other. And I think that that's the biggest mistake or something that's been overlooked by us, and we did that.
Okay. So with that being said, Aisha, did we gain anything from integration that we didn't have before? So we're going into this thinking that, okay, now we're going to get these rights and we're going to be able to go and buy from everybody and people are going to buy from us and racism is going to scale back and life is going to be good. Did we get anything out of integration that we didn't have before?
You know, knowing what I know today, no, we didn't. It didn't help, right? But I like what Shalaye said, that there are some benefits, but the overall, there was no benefit because it took away your own sense of self and your own sense of strength that you can work towards, and put it where you're trying to let somebody want you to be with them. You're trying, so you're spending all your energy doing that rather than building yourself. So I think it didn't help. You know, I think it was more detrimental than helpful to our people, because I'll give you an example. Back home where I'm from, we have different cultures. We have different cultures, and trust me, if we went anywhere and we were not welcome, our parents would tell us, "You are not going over there. You are not allowed to go over there. You stay over here. Period. We're not trying to assimilate with you because we're not, because you don't want us. So why would I want to be where you don't want me to be?" So I think it didn't help us.
I think that's the thing about integration, right? So the majority, the not like us's, them, the colonizers, if you will, the others, right? They said that you guys can come over here and join our camp. I always wonder, how come they didn't come over and join our camp? We got the flavor, you know what I'm saying? We're the ones out here coming up with the concepts, the ideas, the patterns. We're the stronger people. We're doing the work. Like, why wasn't the integration to come to us? Why do we have to integrate with them? But then also when you're thinking about it, I think at that time, the concept and the idea was just to, again, be equal, to be of value, to live how you want to live. And so when you dangle a carrot in front of I'm not calling Black people horses. I'm just saying when you dangle a carrot in front of somebody that's hungry and wants opportunity and wants to be seen and heard, that carrot looks good. Integrate us. Let us have what you have. Let us do what you do. Let us live where you live. Let us, don't take your foot off our neck, basically. But not really realizing and or understanding what all that meant. And so, Joe, do you feel like or think that we had to sacrifice our economic independence for the illusion of equality?
sacrifice our economic yeah, for sure. We sacrificed everything. Our independence, our economic, everything. We sacrificed everything for the illusion, for the illusion of the inclusion. How about that? And it was
Illusion of inclusion.
the illusion of the inclusion has never been a real thing. It's never in the history of our country been a real thing. We've never been absolutely assimilated or included in anything that goes on in this country. We always been given little tidbits, and even till today, we still fighting for like basic rights and things like that. So it's always been an illusion, and I think now more than ever, people are waking up to the fact that we're not going to get whatever it is they think this so-called American dream is unachievable for Black people in a real way.
That makes a lot of sense. When we think about one of the things we talk about oftentimes when we're talking about integration, right? We're talking about livelihood and allowing us to sit at the counter and allowing us to live where we want to live and those types of things. But I don't think we think about the economic impact of what segregation allowed us to have. And that is economic strength. When you think about the fact that we are what is it, $3 trillion spender, if we spent that with us and not with others, if our dollars circulated in our community longer and we got more of that funding, what would we be able to do? Okay, Gwen said it's 2 trillion. Thank you for the correction. What would we be able to do? So did Black communities, did Black communities have more economic strength during segregation? Shalaye, do you think we have more economic strength then because we were able to control our finances and who we spent it with? Or what are your thoughts?
That is a difficult question to answer. Again, in some ways, yes, but we have to remember we're in their system, like it or not. So we're here in this country that they stole, okay? And we are in their system so for us to believe that we can just be totally separate and equal is not, I don't believe that that's really realistic or possible in their system. They created it. Let's look at what they did to the Native American people who they stole the land from, right? And what they did to them, push them as outliers of the society on reservations, and they are mostly as a population are struggling with that separation because they're not included in this system, this capitalist system that is about making money and it is about economics. So I feel like we're not thinking about it the way that we should. For us to try to be totally separate, that's not going to 100% work. But other cultures, let's look at other cultures who do it, like the Asian population, the Hispanics. They keep their culture. They spend their money within their communities and within their families and things like that. We can do that. See, we're too busy looking at what they took from us and what they're doing. We need to be using their money. We have these Black jobs, right? We're in their system. We need these Black jobs, some of us, right? Take that money and make it. Once you have their money, then you have a decision to make. What are you going to do with your money? This is our money now in the community. Now we're making the choices to go out and spend in other communities and just buy on Amazon every week. We can change that mentality and make the decision to actually buy with us. So there's where I believe that we can make the difference. Trying to be totally separate as a separatist in a community, it's not going to work because we are in their system, unless we're all going back to Africa, which we should talk about, all going back to Africa, and we're going to rebuild that and not allow them to come in and steal and rape over there. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Listen, the microphone is smoking over there. I know it is. So you brought up some good points. And we're going to talk about it when we come back from this commercial break. And we're going to go to Aisha when we come back. And we're going to talk about loss of culture because you hit on it. And I want to dive deeper into that. So let's go to break and then we'll come right back.
Woo! It's a good show right here. But I'm biased. If you are just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I'm the proud producer of this show because it is lit. If you want to receive notifications for when we go live Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948. That's Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS to 87948. Also, If you want to grow your money and not blow your money, all you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, there's courses, there's free giveaways. There's just no reason to be broke in 2025. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. Obviously, you don't want to be entertained here. You want to know enough to grow. Wait, I need to put that on a shirt. You got to know to grow. Got to know to grow. So know and grow with flynubianmoney.com.
So know and grow. Flynubianmoney.com. Okay. So we're going to jump back into our conversation. So the loss of culture, right? Integrating, like anything, right? If you have milk and you get some Hershey syrup and you pour that Hershey syrup into that milk, it becomes chocolate milk, right? When you put two things together, we would like to believe, well, actually chocolate milk is a nice equal, right? But a lot of times when you're integrating something, is more of one, less of the other. And so when you think about taking our culture, our pride, our business knowledge and sense, our ability to do business with each other, our love for each other, and then you integrate it into a different society. And that society we are already aware of, beatings, rapists, you know what I'm saying? All of the things that is that community. When you do that, do you think that integration led to a loss of community pride as well, and or as well as collective wealth building, Aisha?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And when it comes to culture, I think this was done deliberately. As an immigrant to this country, then really going back and learning about the cultures, because we didn't even back in Africa, we don't even know about all these things. We're not taught about any of this. We have zero idea until now that we're not exposed, right? So this was deliberate. Even when our brothers and sisters were taken away from Africa, they separated them. They took Nigerians and people from Cote d'Ivoire, they mixed them up so they can't speak the language, because then they know they don't understand, because they know that if you speak a common language, you can fight, because then you talk in your language and then you can fight to free yourself. They knew that from the beginning. So now you're here now, after all these years of the beating, like you said, the rape and everything happening, taken away from you, your name taken away from you. You don't even know your name. Everything was destroyed. Now you're trying to rebuild. And then you want to rebuild those same people. Like, just think about that. It's not going to work. It's just natural. So your sense of who you are, number one, then you're trying to fight that and then build a business or work at the same time. It's hard. It's just tasking. You're even just trying to go to work. You've been stopped 10,000 times to explain who you are and why you're going over there. And you're like, because you're trying to integrate. So that wastes so much time. But if you just say, you know what? We're not allowed to come over here. Let's cover our own little space. I know we try to do that with Tulsa, and they still destroyed, because again, it is a plan that to keep the separation going over and over again, and that affects us. It affects us growing and building economically until today. Until we say, you know what, enough is enough. Like Shalaye was saying, make that dollar, but spend it back with your people. We will keep doing the same thing over and over again because it was set that way from the beginning. Unfortunately,
It was set up like that. We play into it. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I think we play into it as much as it is how it was set up, and we're playing the hand that was dealt to us, right? Joe, do you think that it is possible to regain what was lost through integration without going backwards? Like, can we get I don't want to say get our sense of pride back, but can we get that community? And this is for the chat too. This question is also for the chat. I want you guys to tell me, is it possible to regain what was lost through integration without going backwards? Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Do you think that that's possible, or what would we have to do, Joe?
Absolutely. Is it possible? Yes, it's very, very possible. It would take a lot of people getting on code. You know what I mean? It's going to be very difficult, and I'll be honest, I'm not positive right now that we'll see it in our lifetimes. But it's I really believe that. But it's very, very possible in small pockets, or in maybe some like larger pockets. But as a whole, we just have, we have too many out there, that are off code and working against us, and making it more difficult and more challenging for us to come together in a real way, because of what we were just talking about. The belief that white ice is colder. So in order for us to like define success, we have to act, dress, look like them. And it's totally against what integration was meant to be about in the first place. It wasn't about, like Shalaye said, it wasn't about assimilation. It was about the access to equality. But instead, we took that and said, hey, now that we have, some of the same, we're supposed to have some of the same rights and same access. Now we can, go to white schools and, look like white people, act like white people. So it's possible, but we have a lot to unlearn in order to make that a realistic thing.
In the society that we live in today, though, I have to ask this question. In the society that we live in today, with the young people that are coming up behind us, right? And just social media. They don't want to talk about Black history. They don't want to talk about African American history. They don't want to see movies that educate them. They want to be friends with everybody. Everybody is our ally. Don't talk about that Black stuff. We're all one. Some people don't even identify, or they'll say we're not from Africa. Like, how do we regain what was lost when we're living in a society that wants to be so far removed from slavery, Blackness, separation? Shalaye, this next generation coming up behind us says we want to be with everybody. We don't want to stand on community. We don't want to stand on Blackness. We want the integration. We don't want you to separate us. Like, how do we get back to being on code?
So first, I don't think there's anything wrong with us recognizing the humanity in each other and saying, hey, we're all humans, right? Because I feel that way too. The only reason why we have to be like, no, we're pro-Black, Black, be one, is because they did that. The white people did that. White people made it about race. So I do believe that humanity and recognizing the humanity in each other is a good thing. I think that because of where we are and because this is such a racist country and a racist world, because of how these people made it to be, that's not how it was naturally supposed to be. But it has, I think the generation coming up behind us are weaker. I'm sorry, y'all, are weaker. And it's because because of integration, they haven't had to go through the struggles of our parents who did the integrating, right? I think like our parents did the integrating. And so they haven't had to go, so they're 2 times removed from that. So they're like, what's the problem? What are y'all talking about? We're all friends, kumbaya. They're not seeing that behind the veil, there's really still a war going on. So I think that the way to combat that is that we just got to keep telling the truth. And I'm actually a little glad that whatever's happening in this country with the crazy man that's in office and all the crazy people who are behind him, I'm glad it's happening so that people can see this still exists. It did not go anywhere. And it's been under the surface and it's been bubbling up and waiting to come out. And this is, if we all have to fight to keep this democracy and to keep things fair and to keep things in some kind of way equal, because there are still people out there who want to drag you back to slavery. And so I feel like the way to combat it is to keep telling the truth. We just keep telling the truth. Oh, we don't want to deal with it. Here's a book. Go watch Roots. My mother made me watch Roots when I was 10. It was traumatic, but I get it.
I love that. So I'm gonna ask you a quick question, Aisha, and then we're gonna go to break. We're gonna come back from break and watch this other perspective on segregation. We're gonna watch this other video, and then we're gonna go through and look at segregation from different perspectives around relationships, education, business, entrepreneurship. But before we get to that, Aisha, coming from another country, integrating into America, and then integrating as an African American, what was that like for you? Do you feel or think that you had the same, or do you have the same experiences? Is it different for you being that you're coming from a different country as those of us who are born here? Or can you just talk about your experience versus where you may have come from to being here around integration?
It is absolutely different, and different in the sense that I think the number one thing that Shalaye mentioned was the humanity. There is a humanity that we all have that sometimes if we're not allowed to experience it, then we have this sheltered view of it. Even like in America, in general. They feel like separate from other people around the world. Because this country was an idea. It was an idea. They came here and then took it from the people that live here, the natives, right? So America's an idea, number one. So me coming to this country and being from another country where, like, maybe people from Ireland or any other country around the world that came to the United States, I feel the humanity where whatever the African Americans are feeling here, guess what? We feel the same back home. So to us, it's not a big deal. If somebody says, "Oh, I don't care if you don't like me, I don't like you either." Like, it's simple for us. We don't take it personal because back home is the same. I speak Hausa, somebody speaks Yoruba or Igbo, and my parents will tell you, "You're not allowed to go to that place. This is who they are. We don't like their culture." Literally, you grew up like that, and they talk to you like that, and they look just like you from the same country, and you're told, you're not going to go over there. So we already have that. So if I come to America and some white person walks around and looks at me, like, I'll look at them back and say, "Who the hell you think you are?" It's just, to us, it's just a humanity. It's just natural. We don't take it personal. We don't worry about it. But I also understand the difference in my brothers and sisters taken forcefully from back there and brought over here forcefully to work for free. And then now you want to say you're better than them. Hell, you're not. You just had a chance to subjugate them and take from them. So you can't tell me that. And I'm not buying that, right? But the humanity of knowing that what you're feeling or somebody not liking you is natural all around the world. Back home, we suffer that all the time. And my dad was in the military. So I was really exposed to several cultures from my country. And even within us, we don't go over there. We're not allowed to do that. And they look just like me from the same country. So it doesn't bother me. If you don't like me, too bad. I don't like you either. I'm moving on to the next person that likes me. It's just natural for me. I don't have to fight it or look at you anyhow and think, "Oh, are you white?" I don't care what color you are. If you don't treat me with respect and you don't like me, guess what? Right back at you, and I'm out of there. Simple. I don't even waste my time, overthink it. It's just human nature and humanity. So that, I think, helps me to move a little bit faster than not waste my time worrying about people that I could care less about them either.
I think we can put that on a shirt. You don't like me? Too bad. All right, let's go to break and we'll be right back.
I know you're busy, you got things to do, and you can't take us on the go with you every single day. Good news for you. We are now on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, now you can listen to us on Spotify. Search Fly Nubian Money and all the episodes shall appear. All you have to do is like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, leave some comments, tell people how you love us so that when other people come along and are looking for a great show to watch, they can find Fly Nubian Money too. One last thing, and just in case you've been sitting under a rock, Fly Nubian Money now has an investment club. We are the Fly Nubian Money Club. It's easy. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com, and I am committed to bringing in top experts from all industries to help you level up. They're teaching us the skills that we need to compete in this market. We often say that nobody is coming to save us, not the government, but guess what? We're coming to save us. I'm coming to save you with the Fly Nubian Money Club. So listen, all you have to do again is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com. We have a 30-day free trial set up just for you, just for those people that are struggling. Even if you ain't struggling, you ain't got to struggle. I'm coming. Okay, let me stop playing. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. All right. So this is Fly Nubian Money. Today we're talking about, did integration really help Black America? Trevor Noah says no. We watched that video earlier. There's another perspective that we're going to take a look at. We're going to roll into that video right now.
So what's your take?
Bring back segregation.
100% disagree.
Dead act. Bring it back. I want to know where I'm not welcome, okay? Put them signs back up. Colors only, whites only. Let's do it, all right? Rip the Band-Aid off. Especially for a restaurant. Are you kidding me? Whites only? What do I want to do in there? What they got? Mashed potatoes? Mayonnaise? Hot dogs? Colors only? We got seasoning. Turmeric. Paprika.
Okay, I like this.
Okay.
You were saying that the Black excellence.
Absolutely.
The segregation is to get
the colored excellence.
Okay.
Black people spend over $1 trillion a year. I would love for the government to force us to spend it on our own people.
This is very good.
Yes.
I like this a lot.
I brought you over to the side.
And the black airplane?
Oh, come on, the Soul Plane, baby.
I want to be on Soul Plane.
Yes, it's going to be noisy on there, but that's what noise cancellation headphones are for. You know what I'm saying?
And they're going to have all the good movies?
All the good movies, all the good music.
Oh, man.
And while we at it, bring back sundown towns. They never left, but...
What's that?
Well, a sundown town was back in the day during Jim Crow, where black people weren't allowed to be in a town after the sunset.
Wow.
So those towns never left. They still exist in America, but they took the signs down. I want them to put the signs back up. I wanted to say 248 miles to the next town that likes colored people. Get your gas in Atlanta. Don't stop till you get to Savannah, all right?
I'm with her.
He with me.
I love her.
LaNee just going off on mute. Look at her.
That was great.
Go off, LaNee. Go ahead. We see your lips moving. It looks good. Still on mute, going off. Go ahead, girl. We listening to you.
You're muted, Dr. LaNee.
LaNee just going off over there, giving a whole dissertation.
Oh, I am talking on mute. You're talking about me.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Shalaye. Shalaye, LaNee. They sound similar. Okay, my bad. So I did. I literally just said, what are your initial thoughts when you watch that video? Joe, what are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts is what it's always been, that Black American culture is the greatest export that we have. It's all over the world. It's nationwide. And, you know, if we did do that and move somewhere over here, what would happen was every culture would then follow us over there because that's where it's at. That's where it's lit. I mean, that's not, you know, like me being biased because I'm a black man. Like, that's really what it is. If you look around the culture, like you go travel and you see what are they doing on the streets? Is people rapping and doing hip hop on the streets? Black culture is where it's at. But, you know, like they always say, all of the rhythm, none of the blues, right? So that's all I think about when I hear that, man. It's just, I smile and then I get frustrated.
So basically, so let me, since I'm not on mute anymore, does anybody else want to address that before I move on? Shalaye, go ahead.
Yeah. So at first, when the video started and she was saying that, I was like, I felt a pit in my stomach. But then when she started saying it the way she was saying it, I was like, I want to be there. But the thing is, they would never allow that. Again, if there was a way to fully do that and fully separate, I agree. I want to know who don't like me. When I'm coming and you're saying no, go, I want to know who that is so that I can go, right? And it would be helpful. Okay, we're not patronizing there. We're not patronizing there. That would be very helpful. It really would. So at first I was like, well, but then I love the sound of it, but it was just sexy. It was super sexy. I don't know if it's like something that we could really do in real life, but I like it.
All right. Aisha, did you want to add to that?
Yes. You know, I think when I first heard it, I laughed so hard, but without the signs, I don't want the signs because then it's kind of demeaning, but the attitude, just the way I carry myself. You can sense it. You know, we have intuitiveness. We can tell if we walk into a place and there's a sense of curiosity. Somebody is looking at you because you're curious. And then there's a sense of, I don't want you here. You can feel it. You can't pretend. You can smile and pretend all you want. I can tell if you like me being around you or not. And as soon as I can feel it, I am out of there. Honestly, I tell my kids, because like you say, the kids are growing today, they feel it's kumbaya. I tell my kids, trust me, if you go anywhere, because we talk about just like the everyday life, as if you go to a group of people or wherever you are, and you have that sense in your pit that they don't want you there, I say, I'm giving you permission to walk right away. And if they talk to you, don't talk to them. I tell them that. I'm sorry. I'm training my kids to be resilient. Don't beg anybody to be your friend. Do not. If you are not welcome, you dust that feet and walk away from there. Do not go back there, because that is how I was raised. I was not raised to beg anybody to be my friend, to welcome. I know I'm not. I will be courteous and show you love and respect. But as soon as I sense that you're being disrespectful, you don't want me there, I will tell you I am out of here. Simple.
Can I say something?
And, go ahead,
It actually goes back to what Aisha was saying. I agree with. I'm actually going through these conversations with my 7-year-old now, and I think it's easy for us to say, yeah, they don't want you, walk away. But in our society where we are integrated, and again, our children are 2 or 3 times removed from segregation now, they want that camaraderie with everyone and that humanity with everyone. And I think the difference is because Aisha, when you were talking about back home and how this happens back home, and you guys all look alike, but you have these differences, that was something I've never heard before. And that got me to thinking, well, what's the difference? Why do we get so butthurt when white people treat us a certain way? But it goes back to psychological abuse. I think that that's the difference between Africans in your country, in your own country, in your own land, and your own people, and you can go through this with them, and they don't like us, we're going to stay away from them. And the difference here is, like you said, we were brought here, we were made to be slaves, we were raped, we were integrated within our cultures, we couldn't communicate with each other, there was psychological abuse, there was beatings, there was so many things that we're so traumatized by. And so it's easier for them to do it to us because there's already that level of extreme psychological abuse. So I think that that's probably the difference between being African American who, born and raised here, and being of African descent and coming here and having that toughness about like, okay, I don't care if you're white, whatever. I don't care what you think of me. And being here and growing up in the society and having to code switch and assimilate. Because I think about myself, I'm like, I've had to do that. Why? What's the difference? I think it's that level of psychological abuse that we've had to go through, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents have had to go through.
Correct. If I may add something that just came to my mind as she was speaking, Shalaye, is Barack Obama, right? I never knew about him, and then when he started running for office, then he became popular. I started hearing about him and who he was and how his upbringing was. And then I never really know about him, and I heard that, but he went to Africa. They say he went to Kenya, where his father was from. They say he went. I said he did. Somebody just said that. I said, yeah. They said, guess what? He's going to win. He's going to win the race. They said, how come? I said, because there's power. When you go back home, where you're from, even in the villages where they have nothing, there's something about that when you come back, you know who you are. You realize that it's not about the color of your skin or anything like that. It's just knowing. And he won again twice. I said, because he went back home and sat in their villages where, yes, they might be poor on the outside, but inside they know who the heck they are. And I think that's what is taken away from our brothers and sisters here, that it's so hard for them to get past it. But when I knew that he went to Africa, I said, game over.
Yeah, because just think about it. When you think about, and I'm saying this as a African American who was born, raised here, and having to go to a school where me and my sisters were the only Black kids, and having to talk about Black history, and having all the white kids look at you and giggle, and having to have that conversation in a room full of white people and how they portray, and even the way it looks in books, and having us as the poor people, it does something to you mentally to think that this is where you started from. And we don't understand, as people who were born and raised here, that this isn't where we started from, but our physical existence started here. If we were able to go back and grab a piece of that dignity and that strength and that resilience, like, no, I didn't start here. My story may have began here, but my ancestors, we didn't start here. And that's who we were. And this is where we are now. But that doesn't mean that's who I am and that's where it started from. I think that there's crazy power in that.
I kind of want to go into segregation and integration together, but you started this psychological thing. So I feel like I need to go and talk to Joe real quick before I go in that direction. What is the psyche part of that, Joe? Like, how do we mentally, psychologically get through these traumas so that we can be a community, so that we can have faith in ourselves, so that we can have confidence in ourselves, so that we can unite, so that we can feel empowered? What does that look like? Like this conversation that they're having, like what is what's the mindset that we need in order to do these things?
What's the impact? First of all, it's stressful. Racism is stressful, and it's not just, like, I'm not just throwing it out there. Like, that's a real thing. We have actual physical effects that happen to our body and our mind due to the constant dealing with racism, having to battle that. It's a real thing. And some of us are dealing with it and don't even really know it. We don't know that we're walking around with that trauma and that anxiety and that stress, all because of we're worried about how we show up. Are we are we integrating into whatever they're doing, or are we too aggressive? You know what I mean? Are we looking right? Are we looking a certain way? There's a lot of stress that comes with that, because that big time fear of rejection, that we're not going to fit into whatever we need to fit into in order to succeed or progress our lives. How do we do it, man? How do we get over that? We have to start by first recognizing what reality is. Okay. And then going back to some of the stuff that Shalaye was talking about, understanding what you really are and what you truly are and where you're actually at. Okay. These these people do not define what you actually are. They shouldn't be the standard or the definition. And when you start understanding that, you start accepting your people for what they are and who they are, and taking pride in that, right? It's all been an illusion. We have to unlearn all of this mess that we have just accumulated over time about what we actually look like. Like, just a small example. Like, I always tell the same story. At the last job I was working at, I was in there talking to teens, saving lives, literally saving lives. And they came to talk to me about the way that I looked, or the way that I dressed, or the hat that I wear on my head. And I ask you, if your child comes into me and I save their child's life, do you give a damn what I'm wearing on my head? Or when I was coaching, I used to be a teacher when I was coaching, but they said to be a coach, you have to shave off your facial hair. No black man made that rule up. Okay.
Listen, a black man don't trust you if you don't got no facial hair. I've heard that many times,
brother.
You don't got no stash. I don't know if I can trust you. I've heard that.
Perfectly good man, but I have to take some time to trust you if you a black man with no facial hair. What you really got going on? What you really got going on? So that's what I'm saying. Like, but why is that a necessary thing? Why must I shave my facial hair in order to coach and be present? I didn't have to shave it for just for games. So on game day, I had to have no facial hair. Understand what that is.
Degradation and humiliation. It's just a mess with you.
Yes.
And the microaggressions, right? That's what you're talking about. Like, there are so many things. I can think of a thousand examples just growing up and becoming a woman, and just so many different little things, these microaggressions, that when we're talking about racism, we're not talking about the most overt of actions. We're talking about all the little things that we have to put up with and deal with and, tread through on a daily basis just to survive. And everything about the hair and everything like that, it really goes back to a basic need of survival. If I don't do this, if I don't assimilate, if I don't look this way, if I don't speak this way, if I don't do it this way, I can't keep my job. I can't pay my bills. I will not survive. It all goes back to survival.
Oh, this conversation is getting good. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to try to get into what does segregation and integration and or assimilation look like? Can all three exist in the same space? So we're going to have that conversation when we come back after this break.
Are you a Black business owner looking to expand your reach? Well, has Fly Nubian Money got good news for you? We are building a Black business directory to connect you with customers who need your services. And here is the best part. It is absolutely free. Email us at info@realvirtual.net. Send us your business name. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what services you offer, your website address, and your contact information. That's it. Together, we are going to build and circulate the Black dollar. Get listed today and start connecting with people who are probably already looking for you.
Listen, get on the Black business directory so we know how to find your business. All right, so God, there's still so much to talk about, but we're gonna segue into. Shalaye brought up a good point, right? We're talking about integration and was it good? And I think when we went into integration, we're thinking, oh, we're about to be integrated into the society. We're about to be accepted. We're about to be able to move and groove and do all the things. And they were thinking assimilation. You're going to come over here and do it like we say to do it, how we want you to do it. You're going to be little black whites, right? this is how we operate and you should operate too. So integration was really assimilation. And so when we think about going back to segregation, can segregation and integration exist? Because if we're talking about we should separate ourselves, we should spend only with us, that means we don't have Apple anymore. So somebody got to get out here and make a cell phone. Somebody got to get out here and make a TV. Can segregation and integration exist? Meaning, if we're segregating the schools, is the education the same? Are we segregating the music? Are we segregating where people live? Are the communities the same? If we're like when we really talk about let's segregate ourselves, we're only going to Black restaurants. We're not going to white restaurants. We're only going to like what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? Can segregation and integration coexist in a way that strengthens our community, Joe? What do you think? Is that possible that we can have both? Or will we only have segregation?
Yeah, no, segregate the money. That's where it's at. Black banks, Black businesses, Black communities, and build up as much as possible, and then we could have a better chance of survival here. You know what I mean? Because honestly, at the end of the day, yes, this country is racist, but what I've come to understand is what they care more about even than racism is money. Like that's above all. Like that's their number one thing. And as long as racism is profitable, they're going to keep doing it. Right now in this country, racism is very profitable, and as long as they keep running it up, we're gonna keep doing it. So I think the first way for us to achieve what you're talking about is separate our money. I'm talking about like everything. We're talking about Black real estate companies, Black everything. Black any financial institution that we lean on for equity. We need to start it Black.
Okay, so let's look at some stats. Let's look at some of these stats around segregation. The Black business ownership. So before integration, do we have that slide, Gwen? I think it's a Black business ownership. So Black home ownership. So, okay, good. Thank you. Before integration, Black business districts like Black Wall Street were thriving. Today, Black businesses make up only about 2.2% of employer businesses. I wish I knew how much they did back then, but right now we're only making 2.2%. So before integration, we were thriving. Now we're only at 2.2. School segregation. A recent study shows that schools are almost as segregated today as they were in the 1960s. So I'm curious if that is because of real estate, right? That could be a reason. Black home ownership rates are still about 30% lower than white home ownership rates. Okay. Employment disparities. Black unemployment remains about twice as high as white unemployment, a pattern that's persisted since integration. And then lastly, we have the wealth gap. The median wealth of Black families remains significantly lower than white families, about $24,000 compared to $188,000. So when Joe says we want the segregation relative to the finances, that's I guess what we're talking about. Like we want not so much equal, but definitely better, definitely more. And if we were to utilize our own resources and the finances that we have, our $2 trillion in our own communities, then we should see some increase in our dynamics, right? Our businesses should do better, which means our employment rate goes up. Because our businesses are doing better, we have the money to go and buy the homes that we need, which increases our home ownership rates. Our schools will do better because we can fund the schools in our community based on the dollars that we have in our community. So what do you think about that, Shalaye? Does it, if we were to segregate our finances, would that change the dynamics of the Black community? Let me ask you two ways. Would it change the dynamics of the Black community as a whole? And the second part of that is economically, because there's two different things that are happening in our community around finances: family structure, how we operate, how we get along, and our economic abilities.
Yes. So I believe that it could and it should. If it would, depends on us. Again, it depends on the decisions that we decide to make. Like, again, we're in this system, take the dollars out of this system from our jobs. And now we have the power to decide where it goes and what we're going to do with it and how we can use those dollars to empower ourselves, our families, our communities, and Black people as a whole in this community. I mean, in this country. So yes, if we increase Black businesses that are profitable, because you can start an LLC, you can do a sole proprietorship. What kind of businesses are we going into that are actually profitable? Where are the mentors that are coming into the communities, having these conversations with the people who are ready to start businesses about what area you should go into in order to be profitable? And then also, we can't, again, totally separate from the economic system. So again, Dr. Boyce talks about stocks and everything. Those companies, we don't own them, they own them, but we can benefit from them. So I think we need to be thinking about every single way that we can benefit from their system and siphon money out of their system to create our own power and then decide what we're going to do with that power. We need to be getting more into home ownership. We need to be buying land. We need to even be thinking about homeschooling our children. What is that? But, and that's a whole other thing, because us as Black people, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I've been working a lot. And just the fact that when you're financially set and you don't have, everything you do doesn't have to be about work and work, and you have time, you have that extra time to educate your children. That's a huge thing right there. Parents who have to work 1, 2, and 3 jobs, or parents who are working 80 hours a week, right? So there's a lot of levels. I believe that home ownership, business, and educating our children should be at the top of those, and we need to stop spending money.
And we need to stop spending money, she said.
Yeah. Get off Amazon.
Listen.
We have enough.
So I always say that because some kind of to what you were talking about, right? We don't own everything. We don't create everything. So even if we were to segregate, we still have to dibble and dabble in the global population, the national, population and businesses and electronics, things of that nature. And so one of the things that I always say is that I'd like to see that there's a Black hand tied to my transaction, right? And so what that means is I know that I have to have insurance for my car. So I'm going to go and find a Black insurance company to write my policy, right? Mm-hmm. I know that I need somebody to come out and fix my refrigerator because I can't. So I'm going to try to find a Black, not a plumber, but the Black person, a handy person that can come in and fix my plumbing. Mm-hmm. I know that I need somebody to work on my car. I'm going to try to find a Black, right? So even though I can't move and groove completely based on the products all Black, can I put a Black hand associated to this transaction so that they at least get a piece of the money that I'm going to be spending? Aisha, how can we reclaim our economic power while living in an integrated society? Like, how can people make sure that while we are integrated, we can potentially separate or segregate our finances, our economic power?
Before I say something, I'm going to apologize. My gardener is here. So I'm like, oh my God, what a time for the gardener to be here. But if you hear the noise, please pardon me for that. The way we can do this is just spend it within each other, right? I don't know if you guys have heard about the Jewish word called fargin. Fargin means that if in the Jewish culture, if they have a business, right, they make sure that they support that business. If somebody, like let's say Dr. LaNee started a business today and we're aware that she started a business, all of us collectively would just go and support her. Go buy something, just go buy it. So whatever, how small it is, we just all kind of just to support her in the beginning stage so she doesn't feel the struggle like, oh my God, I started a business, it's hard. They will collectively go there and just support that person and buy something from them, no matter how small. And as they go there to support that business owner in their community, they will give them advice on what they didn't do right. So in a very gentle way, so they can be better and be stronger in that space. So that's how we can also do the same thing. Because sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just find, okay, I know this is how this happens. How can I do the same thing in my own community? If it's working in their community, we can also replicate the same thing here in our community. Because sometimes we're becoming a global economy. Like everybody now knows everybody's business through the internet. We're now beginning to get that integration happening automatically anyway. So the goal is, well, then how can I pick what works well and also implement it, but making sure, like you say, Dr. LaNee, that dollar, a Black person also shares in that profit one way or the other. It's not just one way only. I think that will really, really help us a lot, because what I see really hurts us is that when we have a business, we don't have support, or it's not enough to keep us going. So I think if we can just do just that small tweak with our 2 trillion spending outside our community. Just imagine if just 10% extra is spent in our local business, regardless of how we feel about the person, just because we want them to have that opportunity. We just go there and support them, right? It will change everything. It will change it. So we have to make that effort. It won't happen out there, and nobody's going to do it for us. We have to make that decision in our mind that, you know what, we've been talking about this over and over again. What can we do? What can we do for each other to make sure that business that just started over there, I will go and support her, just buy something small, just to put that money in that family's hand. So that's how I believe we can help each other. And it's possible. It's possible.
And it's possible. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I fear that I have integrated my people into a burning house." And we are literally living in this burning house. And I think that goes to one of the questions that I've seen come up in the chat, which is, how does this play out for families that are integrated? When you have 2 sets of races into a household, like what does that look like? And we're in a place where we have to figure out how to be, again, integrated without assimilated, if at all possible, right? But then understanding and knowing which pieces of segregation are necessary, how to use your financial power for segregation, how to use your voice for segregation, how to use your business, how you employ, the school that you go to, where you put your donation dollars. There's a variety of different ways to segregate while being integrated. There's a variety of different ways to segregate integrate without assimilating. And it's understanding really that balance, right? Even when you have mixed children, where do they flow? They fall on the Black side, the white side, the Mexican side, whatever. How do they live? What do they know? Do they understand where they come from? I have mixed nephews. I was born and raised in California until I was 16, and I moved here. So I'm super lucky and blessed that I have a California mentality. My younger sisters moved here a lot later in their lives, so they have more of a Arizona mentality and a more we love everybody mentality. And so I have mixed nephews. And then my family is not well off, but we've lived in the suburbs. So we live in a community here in Arizona called Gilbert. There's not a lot of Black kids. They're probably the school system here is less than usually 6% at the school. And then we live in a community that's not that many. So at their school is probably less than 2. And so some of their concepts and their ideas about Blackness can be misconstrued. And so me and my mom and my sisters, and we're always trying to talk to them about different things that they're hearing, that they're seeing when they're going to school, and they want the straight hair, or they're asking about their nose, or they're asking about these different things, and they don't understand it or get it because they don't necessarily see other kids that look like them, and they're mixed. So you know what I'm saying? So there's so much that goes into this segregation conversation. But what would it look like if we could segregate? If we could buy from each other, if we could love each other, if we could build families? And we're going to look at what that looks like in this video on Eatonville. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to have our final question, and then we're going to send you out into the world so that you can be good and segregate your finances. But let's go to this video on Eatonville and talk about how can we create that today.
Imagine a place where Black people, just 2 decades after slavery, built their own thriving town, governed, owned, and led by them. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, Eatonville, Florida made it a reality in 1887, becoming one of the first incorporated all-Black towns in America. Picture this: Black families owning their land, running their own businesses, and controlling their destiny, completely free from white rule. This wasn't just a community, it was a revolution in plain sight. And get this, The legendary Zora Neale Hurston? Yeah, she grew up right here. This town shaped her into one of the Harlem Renaissance's most powerful voices. But here's the real question. Why isn't Eatonville's success story in every history book?
So it's possible. It is possible to have. It is possible to do.
Does that
I'm
town
gonna
still exist?
say it again.
Does that town still exist?
No, I don't believe that town still exists. There are towns similar to that. We're looking at Freedom, Georgia, is a location in Georgia, called Freedom, where they have 520 acres of land that they have been selling, and so they are building like a Black community out there in Georgia. The Freedom Georgia Initiative, using the past to build the future. FlyNubianMoney.com. Okay, click here to support freedom. So there is a community currently in Georgia where they are, taking back the land. I forget how many families are there, but I know they have like 520 acres there. So there are organizations and people and communities that are trying to get back to creating safe spaces and havens for Blackness and Black people. This will be our final question. I want to ask this question as we go around the room on the way out. And then so you can answer the question and also tell people where they can find you and or give your final thoughts. And that is, was integration more of a symbolic victory than a practical one? I'll start with you, Shalaye. Was integration more of a symbolic victory than a practical one? And then just whatever your final thoughts are and where people can find you.
Again, I believe that it was both. It was definitely symbolic and needed at the time to calm the fires and everything that was going on and to give the illusion of progress for Black people and progress for racism in America. So I do believe that it was symbolic. However, I do believe that it had actual positive implications. It did not solve everything. No, it did not solve everything, and it's not going to solve everything. And the thing is, they are not going to solve it for us. That is my final thought. We get our Black dollars, siphon our Black dollars out of the system, and we need to decide what is the best way that we can support and build up our communities with the money that we have. We need to stop overspending on stuff. Part of integration was us now keeping up with all the Joneses and buying all the things. I don't want no more stuff. I'm about to sell everything, but except my houses. But that's my final thought. And I am Shalaye Camillo with Vital Source Realty. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, but I can help you buy or sell real estate anywhere in the continental United States and Canada, which I want to look into getting a passport for. But that's my
Thank you, Shalaye. Thank you for being here today. Aisha, what are your thoughts and what are your final thoughts? And also, was integration more of a symbolic victory than a practical one?
I think it was both. It was both in the sense that some people thought that could bring everybody together in a sense, but of course we know what happened. It didn't work out that way. But I also believe that though we can be separate, we can find a way to also find some commonality in our humanity, because at the end of the day, not everybody is against us. Some are, but not everyone. So we can find a way to work together, but at the same time, make sure that we're spending our money within ourselves so that we can grow and meet up and or be where we want to be as a community, because we can and we should. It shouldn't be something we overthink. We just make sure that we do that with each other. And I also love what Dr. Frazier says. He says, you know what, those of them that want to work with us, that we truly want to work with us, let's work with them. Work with them in the sense that we can gain whatever we want to gain from them and use it for our own good as well. So I think we should do that. And my final thought is, no matter where we are, what we do, we should always believe that we can overcome anything that is put in front of us as long as we're willing to work together, especially as a community. There's nothing we cannot overcome today, especially knowing what we know, we can work together to make it happen. I'm a financial expert. I'm with a Black Business School as a coach. If you are looking for advice on how to take care of your legacy, planning for your family insurance, making sure that you have what you need, building your own bank, please reach out to us there. We can help you, and you can find me there in the Black Business School.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Aisha. Dr. Joe Corley, what are your final thoughts? And do you think that integration was more of a symbolic victory than a practical one?
I think I agree with Shalaye. It was a little bit of both. I mean, symbolic in the way that we began to like realistically be able to challenge the idea of white supremacy. And I don't know if we were doing that before. I wasn't, existing in that time, but kind of historically, I don't think we really were challenging it in a real way as a whole. But it came at an expense to us, right? I mean, I always bring up my great aunt Dolores, who's in her 80s now, who talks to me about when she was younger in high school and in college, like all of her teachers were black, but because those black teachers didn't have access to the same type of avenues of success that white people had, her teachers were the best of the best. They were the best historians, the best doctors, the best financial people, because all they could get was those type of jobs. So when segregation happened, you didn't get the best of the best anymore. We didn't get the best of us anymore. So it did come as an expense to us too. So yeah, it's both symbolic and practical, man. And at the end of the day, we just have to get back to that. I think I can't remember. I'm always saying Shalaye is right, but Shalaye is right. She was talking about the mentors earlier. We got to get back to the best of us teaching us what they know, so that we can advance. As a community, that is what we lost in integration. That is what we lost. So I hope that we can figure out a way to get back to doing that. And heal as a people, because we got a lot to heal. And when you talk about healing, I really want you to start pulling up on me at Real You Consulting. Like, we really have to talk about, and we do talk about in session, the effects of racism and all the things that you have to unlearn in order to achieve the best of you. To unlock the most authentic version of you, you have to move and remove a lot of barriers that have been kind of laid on you and piled on you through racism in this country, and learn that a lot of that stuff isn't real. Like, a lot of the things that we've been taught isn't real. Like that whole town you just showed. I'm 44 years. I've never heard of that, and that's a shame. You know what I mean? And then when you start, like, I grew up in Minneapolis, right? So I watched Roots in school. I watched Glory in school, and I raised my kids here in Texas. And I let my first kid go through it, because all I know is what I know. But my second child is homeschooled. I don't, I find it really difficult for any black person to put their kid in Texas public schools, because they teaching bullshit in there. So that's what I got to say about it. Pull up on me, realuconsulting.com, Joe Corley on all socials. I'm out there. I'm out here.
Did I see or get a message that you just got not ordained, but your practice has been, you've expanded?
A little bit. I mean, I can set up insurance in Texas, but even now I'm looking at that like, that's kind of crazy, because they don't pay you what you're worth, honestly. But but in order for me to be a tool for the community, I have to do this. You know what I mean? I have to accept certain insurances, because that's kind of some of the only ways I can really get in front of my people.
Gotcha.
By taking it. So that's why I'm doing it. I was cash pay, but in Texas now I'm taking insurances.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right. So today's conversation has been super amazing. I think my final thought is going to be around the illusion of inclusion. I think that's kind of where I think that we dropped the ball, is the illusion of inclusion. And I think if we realize we just gonna give Shalaye all the credit today, that when we talk about integration and we talk about segregation, we really have to talk about that assimilation, because the integration, I don't think, is where the problem necessarily was wrong. It was the assimilation part. If we were truly able to integrate and keep our culture and keep ourselves and be who we are in all of our wonder and all of our greatness and all of our brilliance, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Black businesses would still be thriving. We would still be going to Black businesses. Our talents and skills would be appreciated. But because the goal was assimilation, and for us to be like them and to act like them and to walk their line, we're having this consistent tussle and struggle. And in the community, we think that if we're not assimilated, then the value is not there. And so from a segregation standpoint, I think if we were to intentionally segregate certain areas, certain things, right? If we were intentional with our talents and where we place those talents, if we were to segregate our talents, you can still go to your job and get all the big bucks and make all the big money in corporate America, but then take that same great talent and skill and go and do something with a nonprofit or a Boys and Girls Club. You can still go and play sports and get the big contracts, but still go and make sure that you give back into the Black community so that the next generation does. So I think we can segregate and integrate, right? We can integrate into the world and do what we have to do to make the money and whatnot, but we have to make sure that we're segregating our economics, our finances, our talents, our families, our love. Like, we have to protect this thing called Blackness. We have to protect this thing called legacy and generational wealth and generational knowledge and history and the ancestors. So can they both exist? They can, but we have to be intentional with what we're segregating, how we're segregating it, and then teaching it to the next generation that come behind us so that they don't throw away everything that our ancestors worked so hard for us to have, and so that they understand that. And so I'm Dr. LaNee Javette. I am a Brand Your Brilliance coach and strategist. I help my clients to take their brilliance, their talent, their skill, the thing that they know, and how to build a business around it that they can brand and make money. You can find me on all social medias at I am Dr. LaNee Javette. Today's conversation has really made us think about how integration has shaped the Black community, economically, socially, and mentally. While it brought the promise of equality, did it also cost us our community, pride, and financial strength? We've got to consider how we move forward, how we balance integration with building our own power, wealth, and self-sufficiency. I would like to personally thank my amazing panel, Aisha, Shalaye, and Joe, for bringing their insights and perspectives today. Let's keep challenging the narrative and pushing for real progress. As always, thank you for tuning into Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. As I always say, have a great day. Be blessed, stay Black, and be one. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.